Hello and welcome to Librarians Talk Children's Books. I'm Eric with Fresno County Public Library. Thank you for joining us as we discuss some of our favorite books that you can request at your local Fresno County Library branch. The purpose of this program is to give some great reading recommendations for parents that are available for checkout at our branches. So, who else do we have today? Ashley, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Ashlee Green. I am one of the children's librarians with the Fresno County Public Library. I'm mostly based at the Fig Garden Library, and I cover the west side. So a lot of the rural west side branches, Firebaugh, Mendota, Kerman. And I'm excited to talk about Read-Alouds because I love them.
All right. And of course, you're not from Fresno County, Yvette, but you're one of our wonderful neighbors. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Yvette Herrera, and I am from Madera County Library. We have 5 different branches, but I am located at the main one. So I'm excited to talk about read-aloud books.
All right. And of course, me and Ashley are starting this week doing some Zoom story times. I notice a lot of people are starting to sign up for that. Just a reminder, everybody, go online and register. But you, of course, Yvette, have been doing some virtual story times, right?
Yes, I've been doing the English one on Wednesdays, and then on Thursdays, I do the Spanish one too. So anybody can join in and can have fun listening to my stories.
Oh, what is that on your, what page do you have that on?
Facebook.
Online?
It's on Facebook.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, the Madera County Facebook page?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. And of course, there's a great connection between Madera County and Fresno County. Of course, me and Ashley work at branches that border the county line between Fresno and Madera. But also, there's a partnership. We're all part of the San Joaquin Valley Library System. And Madera County, Fresno County, help me out, guys. Merced County, Mariposa County, Kern County, Tulare County, Kings County. Yeah, there's like 100 branches that are part of the Valley Cat system. So if you say live, in Sanger, and you see that there's a book at the Madera County Library, you can request that through Valley Cat, and Yvette or one of your coworkers will pull that book off the shelf, put it in their shipment, and we'll send it to the Sanger Library for you to pick up. That's a great thing about our system. We're all connected. We all use the same library catalog that you see online. All right. So I have a little bit of a trivia. Let's see if you guys can figure this out. Anne Carroll Moore is a famous New York public children's librarian. She was like the most influential librarian in the mid-20th century. Was a critic of this 1947 bedtime story picture book. She called it unbearably sentimental piece of work, but parents and children's tastes have made this rhyming poem-style book a children's classic. What famous book is this?
I think it's I'll Love You Forever.
No!
That's not it?
No, that one came out later. Yvette, you know?
Yes, Goodnight Moon?
Goodnight Moon.
Oh, I hate to say it, but I agree.
It was a tough question. But yeah, I guess it didn't become popular because this like famous children's librarian who was like, you think that classic like hush librarian, that was this, she was kind of that style, librarian, and she liked fantasy and she liked nonfiction books, but she didn't like them kind of merging. So Goodnight Moon was not very popular with her. But of course, parents and children think otherwise. So eventually they put it in their shelves in 1972.
I think there's a book about her. It's called Miss Moore Thought Otherwise. Is that
Oh,
the
okay.
same librarian? I think
That sounds right. She was like, I almost think like the Devil Wears Prada. I forget who's she's kind of the children's librarian of that. She was like, you know, all the other children's librarians throughout the country would like, what is the New York Public Library doing?
Yeah,
And
there's a
they
good
did
little
this.
picture book about her. It's called Miss Moore Thought Otherwise, and it's about her kind of becoming a librarian, and
Oh,
it's
okay.
enjoyable. It's a good little read
I
for her,
need to
and
read that.
nonfiction.
Yeah.
I'll have to
All
add it
right.
to my collection.
Yeah. 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 I guess. Yeah. It took a while. They talk about like the New York Public Library has like the most checked out books in their history, like the most checked out, I think even just children's books. And the most checked out book is The Snowy Day, that came out in the 1960s. But the Goodnight Moon, of course, doesn't meet, that isn't part of that top five or high on that list because it didn't get added till 1972. But yes, now, of course, I don't think of Goodnight Moon as actually a really good story time read aloud because it's great in terms of the rhyming and repetition, but that's like the perfect book for, okay, I need my kid to go to bed. Let's put him to sleep. It's almost like ASMR kind of style. Just, all right, this is calming and just the rhythm and it's just, let's, you know, fall asleep with this book. All right, so this week, of course, we're talking about read aloud books. Um, we've each have some books to let you guys know about. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
All right, great. Thanks, Ashlee.
So I have two. I'm just gonna say now that I prefer books to rhyme. Like if I start reading a book and it doesn't rhyme, I'm always like, it doesn't rhyme. But I mean, there are good ones that don't rhyme, but my heart is always like with the books that rhyme. So my first one is The Pout Pout Fish.
Yes, Pout.
By Deborah Deason. And there are a couple of others in this line that the first one is my favorite. It rhymes. It rhymes well. It has a repeating refrain. So what I really like about reading this is, for story time specifically, is with like the older kids, they can learn the entire like, I'm a pout pout fish with a pout pout face, so I spread the dreary worries all over the place, because that you repeat that over and over, and like after the second time, the kids start saying it with you. So it's fun. You can get a lot of interaction, and even really little kids, you know, the blub 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 part that we do every single time, like even they can do that.
Physically, when I'm reading that story, I like to physically start pouting, just blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you just start to.
And your last one is always more like blah, you know, because you can. And kids love it. The rhyming, you get to talk about a bunch of different animals in the ocean. You get to talk about feelings. It's got great vocabulary for like all the different words we can use to talk about feeling sad or upset or cranky. And then also about perspective and how we just kind of shift a little bit, you know, when he's like, I'm not a pout pout fish, I'm a kiss kiss fish, you know? So it's you can just do so many things with it. It's great for oceans. It's great for feelings. It's great for just getting kids involved. And like every time I sit down to read this, even like my niece who's 12 will sit down and listen. So I love The Pout Pout Fish.
Yes, and I totally agree about that whole repetition and rhyming. It keeps them interested because they know it's coming, and they kind of
they can participate, and they love being able to participate. And, you know, and especially if you encourage it, and like you can even like stop doing it and let them do it if like towards the end, because they get so good. Anyway, so yeah, I love The Pout Pout Fish. And my second book is The Very Cranky Bear. I see a theme. I like books about crankiness.
You're going with a feeling theme here.
Yeah. So The Very Cranky Bear by Nick Bland. This also rhymes. And It's about four friends who are trying to get out of the rain, and they find a cave. And in that cave is a very cranky bear who doesn't want them playing in his cave. And so what I really like about this is the rhyming is good, but it's also really funny. Like the way that all of these different animals decide to go about solving the problem of the cranky bear. You know, in the end, when they dress him up and he's even crankier.
Yeah.
And then the sheep decides to be kind. You know,
Yeah.
you can always stop like at that moment when he like comes out and he's revealed like as what they've done to him. And they've tied all this stuff onto him, painted him. You know, I always stop and like be the kids like, how would they think it's funny? And it is funny. It's very funny. But I always stop and be like, how would you feel if you were tired and you were trying to sleep and someone came and did this to you? So you can take a minute and ask kids to reflect. And then, you know, ask, oh, do you think this is a good idea? You know, especially with the sheep. Like, oh, what do you think about what the sheep decided to do? So The Very Cranky Bear by Nick Bland.
I have fun with doing the voices. I do a very cranky bear with that one. So yeah, I love, and yeah, and I like how you talked about like how they think like what they like is going to work with the bear, and that's not necessarily true. You know, what cheers you up isn't necessarily what will cheer up somebody else. You kind of got to talk to them and ask them, what do you need right now?
So those are my two books.
Yeah, wonderful. Yvette, you want to go?
Yes. So the first book that I picked is Swing, and it's by Michael Hall. It's a good story that you can read with the kids out loud. It talks about letters. You can sit down with them and discuss, you know, the letters. There's four. In particular, in this story, there's four letters who want to play on a swing set, but of course, they're all different, but seem that they cannot be friends. But as the story goes on, they become friends. They start playing, they start swinging, and then they realize that that they're all different, but that they could be friends as well. So it's a good story. It has good colors too. That you could talk about the colors, the letters, and how letters can be straight, round, curved. So you can talk about that with the kids. And then the second story is, this book is Gray. And I really like this story because it talks about like the primary, the secondary colors. And in this story particularly, it talks about the color gray being, you know, not fitting in with the rest of the colors. But, you know, he starts writing a book, and then he keeps adding to the story and notices that the colors are not friendly. So, you know, he keeps writing in his story, and then at the end they realize that they can be friends. They're different, but they can be friends as well.
So I think Lindsay Ward is like, we were talking about last week, we were talking about new authors, and Lindsay Ward could be considered one of those good new authors. She's been putting out a lot of good books. I think there was one I just saw yesterday called Librarians, and that was a good one. Yeah, so that's a great new author. I've got two books here. I recently had a friend ask me like, what was a book like if you had what's your go-to book? And I was like thinking, well, okay, let's say a class suddenly unexpectedly came to the library and said, can you read us a story? And I would probably pull out this book, Pete the Cat, I Love My White Shoes. What I love about it is, as Ashlee was talking about, good repetition rhyming books. This is a book this is like almost like a sing-along book. And it's actually, just to be careful with this book, there's a lot of the Pete the Cat books, but Pete the Cat, the ones that are really good for read out loud, sing along songs, the story is by Eric Litwin, and we put those in the L section. The artist is James Dean, and most of the Pete the Cat books you will find are the James Dean Pete the Cat books. But if you're looking for the ones that have the rhyming, look for under the L's for Eric Litwin. And he's like a children's folk singer. And you can really get that sense from this book here. And the great thing about this is, like, most 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds have already read this story with their parents already. So they already know what's going to happen. So they're already telling you, you know, the what he's walking along, and then you know, I love my white shoes. I love my white shoes. I love my white shoes. Oh no, P stepped in a large pile of, and then the kids can easily throw that out. They know what it is, and they'll tell you the color. And it's nice, simple enough for the 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds to just follow along with you. So this is always a go-to story. I know all the kids are going to enjoy it. It's a guaranteed winner. The other
Eric, can I just tell you?
Yeah.
True confessions. I've never read that.
What?
I've never read any Pete the Cat books.
Oh my gosh.
I'll go to my branch
Ashlee,
today and
wow.
try and pull some and read them.
Yeah.
With the Litwin ones.
Okay.
Yeah. I know. I'm always like, I can't believe I haven't read Pete the Cat, but you know,
yeah.
I haven't gotten around to
it. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
We haven't read everything. We tried.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. We don't know everything. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why we're doing. Now I've given you a recommendation. Hopefully you can pick up that one. Actually, my first story time, I'm going to read this one. I think this is the second best one. Pete the Cat and his 4 groovy buttons. Unfortunately, he starts with 4 buttons, but they pop off. So it's a great counting book, too. It's a nice, simple, like 3-year-old, 4-year-old counting book, but has that nice singing read-along. The other book I've got is The Monster at the End of This Book, starring the lovable furry Grover. And then I try to do a good Grover book. Hello, everybody. A little high-pitched. This is actually weird. You don't think of class, you know, you see, sometimes people see the Golden Book and they're like, oh, well, it'll be good, but that's usually has to do with a movie or something, and it isn't necessarily like an original, like really original children's literature book. But this one, actually, I found out about it because the School Library Journal puts out about 7-8 years ago, they put out a top 100 selected by school librarians, top 100 picture book list. And this was number 10 of all time. And I think Goodnight Moon was 4, and this one was 20. But I was like, I've never heard of this book. And it was written in 1971. And luckily, I had to tell our children's selector, get a whole bunch of new copies of this, because I loved it so much, and the kids loved it when I read it. So what's so original about this book is it's common now. You see this in a lot of contemporary books, because I think a lot of children's authors have read this, and the famous one, the pigeon wants to, oh gosh, I can't think of it. Don't let the pigeon drive the bus. But back in the 1970s, the idea of a character from a picture book turning to the reader and start talking to the reader was completely original. And actually, because the author is actually a Sesame Street writer, that was not uncommon in, you know, during a children's show, the idea of turning to the camera, breaking the fourth wall, and kind of saying, hey, I'm talking to you directly, count with me, kind of. And the idea of this book is that Grover starts to freak out because he thinks there's a monster at the end of the book. And he's pleading with the reader not to turn the page because there's a monster at the end of this book. Mm-hmm. And of course, children know who's the monster. You know, Grover is a monster. So, and it's just a fantastic book because you kind of you ask the children, should we turn the page? And they're like, yes. And of course, they want to turn the page, so they have a lot of fun with that that print motivation of, you know, and turning the page and seeing what happens. So that is one of my go-to read-alongs, just because it's so highly interactive.
I knew that book because that book was read to me when I was a child. So
yes, yeah,
a lot.
Yeah,
it's great. And I mean, I know this is about books, but they also have an app. You have to pay for it.
Yes, you're right.
And it's so good. Like my nephews will spend, like we have to shut it down at some point because they will just do it for hours because you get to touch the page and like untie the knots and break the book bricks and stuff. But it's reading to them as well. So
yeah,
I haven't read that book.
No. It's so fun.
See, we're getting recommendations for each other here too. Yes. That's wonderful.
Yeah. I'll have to add it to my list.
Yeah, it's really good.
So if you like this, don't let the pigeon drive the bus. If you've read this to kids and you like the kind of style of the character looking right at you, it's kind of the opposite of this book. In this book, the child is the authority figure. The child has the moral superiority. And is telling the pigeon, no, you can't drive the bus. I was told to not let you drive the bus. And whereas in the monster at the end of this book, it's kind of the opposite. It's kind of like Grover's doesn't realize he's the monster at the end of the book, but the child does, and the child gets to be a little mischievous and kind of, you know, play with Grover in a way and kind of make him upset and see him going through these emotions. But at the same time, the child knows it'll be okay, hopefully. So, yeah, that's one of my favorites of all time. So, all right. Thank you for watching. Though our library buildings are closed, we're offering curbside services at our branches. Yvette, are you guys offering curbside services?
Yes, we are offering curbside services here in Madera and throughout the other 5 libraries too as well. So we're offering it from 10 to 4. So all they have to do is go on our webpage and then select the books that they want. They can call us to pick it up, set up a time and date, and they come pick it up, and we'll set it outside, and they can take it home to enjoy reading.
Wonderful. All right. Check out our Fresno County website for curbside hours for your branch. I think we're a little different at each branch. Just go to www.fresnolibrary.org. Make sure to like our Facebook page, and please share with your friends. For Fresno County Public Library, I'm Eric, and I hope to see you again.